about it in spring training. We followed through on what we said we were going to do. We said it, we did it, and now we really get to work. Tonight, we celebrate. So celebrate. Let's go. Let's do it right now. Pop it.
Well, the Twins have clinched the Central Division. It was inevitable in our minds all season, we thought, but they've done it, and now we're looking at playoffs. We don't know who we face yet, but is this finally going to be the year that the Twins get a W on the board? Let's go. Well, we made it here. We made it through a long 162-game season. Twins have clinched the division, but you know what? It's a little sad that I feel like everybody's going around talking about like, oh, are the Twins going to get like one win this year? Instead of every other MLB team that's talking like, oh, we're going to get to the championship series. We're going to get into the World Series. We're going to win it all. We're like, just get one, man.
Just please,
but,
just one.
I mean, I got higher expectations than one. What about you? I mean, they haven't won a game since you were what? How old you been in? The last home game they won was October 8th, 2002. How old were you, Alex? What grade were you in?
I wasn't in a grade. I was 3 years old. Hadn't even started preschool yet.
No,
was still learning shapes and colors.
You were 3 years old last time they won a playoff game. You were 1 year old last time they won a home playoff game. That's nuts.
Well, and back to what you were saying about Twins fans just looking for one win, and it's getting comical at this point. I mean, we've had so many chances, but then keep running into teams like the Yankees and the Astros, who we just can't seem to figure out. Yeah. And I think looking for one win has to be the goal first. Just look for one. Once we get one, let's go look for two and just keep building on that.
That's all we got to do, one game at a time. And hey, we've got the veteran talent on the team that we need. We have the rookies we need. We got the pitching staff that we need. Finally, this is the first time in my lifetime since Johan Santana and Francisco Liriano, but Liriano was hurt when we made playoffs that year, that we finally have the pitching staff, I think, that could actually carry this team through a 7-game series. I think, if anything, the 3-game series makes me the most nervous because anything can happen in a 3-game series, but you drop us in that 7-game ALCS, I'm feeling pretty good about that. I don't care who we're facing. I feel like we have a pitching staff in the American League, that is, that could beat any of these teams that are on the verge of making playoffs. But for those of you that don't know about the drought of the Twins, it is 18 straight playoff losses. Not 18 like series, 18 straight games, playoff losses. That is bigger than any streak by any team in the 4 major sports. And it's not fun. It's not fun being a Twins fan when that happens. I mean, I've been at playoff losses, and I'm sure you have. And you know what? It is not fun, and I'm sick and tired of the Yankees, and they are not in the playoffs this year. So that's a good sign for us. We're like 2-16 against them in the last 30 years, whatever it is. Terrible. But if you remember, well, we already said you probably don't remember because you're very young, but I'm sure you've seen some highlights. I remember when I was in elementary school, when they were in the playoffs, we would always seem to win game 1 and then drop the next 3 games or drop the next 4 games. Like I remember the ALCS against the Angels. We won game 1, I'm pretty sure. And then I think we lost 4 straight. Don't hold me to that, but as far as I remember, and then the Angels obviously went on to win the World Series that year. And that's just seems like so long ago. And it was. I mean, how are you feeling? Like, who do you want to, let's get into who we want to face a little bit. All right. The Twins are clearly locked into the 3 seed. Because based on how the new rankings go, the top 3 seeds are all going to be division winners. The Twins could potentially be the 3 seed with the worst record in all of the MLB, depending on how this week goes. Right now, they're not the worst record in the MLB. Sorry, the worst record in the MLB to make playoffs. They could potentially be the lowest, but yet they still get the 3 seed in the AL, which means they get 3 home games for the wild card game. And yeah, we don't know who we're going to face yet. It's not going to be Tampa Bay. It's not going to be Baltimore. They both have too high of records to be facing us as the 3 seed. We're going to have to face whoever falls to that 6 seed of the wild card. So it's going to be Texas, Seattle, Houston, or Toronto, and it could really be any of them at this point. Let's start out with who do you think it's going to be, and then we'll talk about who we want to face.
I don't know why, I just got the feeling in my bones that we're going up against the Astros. They've kind of had our number the past couple of years in the playoffs, but as you've seen recently with them, they've been losing a lot of games. They've they're just not playing great baseball. And playoffs isn't about what you did 162 games. It's where are you when the playoffs starts? Where's your momentum going? And I think that's probably our best matchup, even though the Astros scare the living bleep out of me. But if I could pick anyone to face, I'd want to face the Twins.
Yeah, I disagree with that pretty hard. I think of all these teams, I think the Twins have the best pitching staff, and second right behind them is the Astros. I know that the Astros have not been doing well lately. They've been slowly falling in the ranks. They were crushing Texas. Everyone thought Houston just won the division. They knocked out Texas when they played them early in September, end of August, was it maybe? But now, man, you're right. They're not the hot team coming in, but they have Justin Verlander, and that dude gets on another level when it gets to playoffs. They have Framber Valdez. He could throw a no-hitter in playoffs. I mean, he's already thrown one, almost two this year, and we've got, who would it be next? Christian Javier, and then they've got Hunter Brown, the rookie that throws like 100 miles an hour. I mean, in 3 games, that is by far the last team that I want to face. But you're right. It's slowly looking like that's who we're going to have to face. And I've been saying since middle of July, I'm pretty sure in the last time we did this podcast, I don't want to face the Astros in the first round or the Yankees. And the Yankees are out. But now I don't want to face the Astros. 3 games scares me with that pitching staff. But hey, Sonny Gray is better than Justin Verlander this year. Pablo Lopez is better than Justin Verlander this year. And honestly, I'd take Joe Ryan or Bailey Ober, Kenta Maeda, any of those guys, a combination of them in a game 3 against Christian Javier or Hunter Brown for sure. I think game 2 will be the hardest. It's just going to be a pitching duel this series. If it's the Astros.
100%.
Have you looked? Well, I haven't looked this morning exactly what they're at, but I'm pretty sure that's a half a game difference right now. Let me just pull it up. Yeah, Houston is only a half a game right now ahead of Seattle, and I believe they play each other again tonight. Yes, they do.
I would not hate a matchup with the Mariners. I feel like that's a team I think we beat them in the pitching staff. I think what it comes down to is can our bats produce? It's been kind of a question mark all season. Especially dealing with so many injuries throughout the year. We haven't really had a consistent lineup, so I think that's going to be a key factor in these series. Can we get those bats going? Can we get runners in when they're in scoring position? All that. I think the pitching is going to be just fine. So will the boys at the plate follow it up?
Yeah, I agree. I think our pitching staff is loaded. Of the Texas Rangers, the Astros, Blue Jays, Mariners, I think we're number 1. Offensively, I think we flip a coin, between any of these teams. Every one of them. The only thing that we're missing offensively is like that top of the line star. I mean, I know we have Royce Lewis, we got Matt Wallner, you got Correa, all these guys. They're stars to us for sure, but they're not the star in the way that like the Blue Jays look at Vlad Guerrero Jr. or Seattle looks at Julio Rodriguez. We don't have that guy that the MLB is going to say we got to put them on prime time tonight. Which that's another big question mark is whether or not we're going to get a noon game, a 3:00 game, a 5, a 7:00 game, because they're going to have 4 games on October 3rd and another 4 games on October 4th. They're trying to get this series lined up and done real quick for the wild card series. And then again, if there's a 3rd game for anyone, all the 3rd games are going to be on October 6th, that Friday. So do you think a noon game would be more beneficial for the Twins, or would a primetime 6-7 o'clock game? I know if we're talking Vikings, we'd say, hey, give me that noon game. I don't need that primetime game for Kirk. But what do you think about the Twins? Would you take a noon game or do you want a night game?
I think, I want the night game because night games are just more fun. You got the prime time, all the atmosphere, the energy. I think it just encapsulates playoffs a lot better than a noon game does.
Yeah.
And also, night game, we get the Johan Duran entrance, which just pumps electricity into the stadium. And I think that can be a huge beneficial.
For sure. Even if it's a noon game and you get that Johan Duran entrance, I mean, hey, it's not going to look the same. You're not going to have all the lights out, but that means we're winning. And it's the 9th inning. I'll take that all day. Bring Johan Duran out in the first inning of a night game is what they should do. Just amp up the entire stadium, the whole crowd. Have him go out there, throw 103 miles an hour for the first inning and just strike everybody out. or give up a couple home runs and walk some guys. I mean, we've seen two versions of Duran, but yeah, last thing on just who I want to face, I definitely would want to take on the Rangers because they lost Scherzer. They are not the same team that they were back in June without him. They've lost DeGrom. Like this team their pitching staff is a little depleted. I know they have Evaldi and Jordan Montgomery is really good. He's been in the playoffs before, but it doesn't scare me in the way that the pitching staff of the Astros do. And Gausman, Bassett, Barrios, I mean, hell yeah, give me the Toronto Blue Jays all day. Vlad Guerrero's not having the season of his career or anything. And same with Seattle. Give me Luis Castillo. He got blown up last night. I mean, just Gilbert. Who exactly? I mean, I know Logan Gilbert's good. Don't get me wrong, but he is no Justin Verlander. I would take any team over the Astros in this first game. But you're right. The Astros are the team that's the least hot. So this is a coin flip for me. But offensively, let's kind of rank each of these teams and the Twins. Like, who do you think has the best offense? Who are you most afraid of? I'm kind of afraid of some of the players on. I think Seattle has a few guys they have some switch hitters. They have some guys that can really mash some right-handed pitching. And the Twins just don't have a lot of lefty pitching in the bullpen. And that could be an issue if we face Seattle. And I think that's going to determine who's going to be on the roster as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think Seattle is a very sneaky offensive lineup. I mean, you got guys like Julio Rodriguez, Eugenio Suarez. But then again, I think you look at a team like the Astros, they've got the playoff experience. You got Bregman there. You got Altuve. They've been there. They've done that. This isn't anything new to them. So I think that probably pushes me towards them a little more. But, I mean, the Rangers also have a really mean 1-2 punch in Seager and Simein. Blue Jays. I mean, this is a stacked offensive grouping. I think it's going to be really hard to just pick one team.
The rookie Josh Jung, he's back. He was out the last month and a half, maybe 2 months. They got Adolis Garcia back. He was out the last 2 months, and that's kind of what in the last few months with all those guys hurt and those pitchers hurt. That's why the Rangers were going down and getting them back. I mean, people kind of forget that this offense was the best offense in baseball for the first 2.5 months of the season, and it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and the Twins. How are you feeling about the Twins offense? Because when we talked about it back, July, we're like, oh, this is bad. This Twins offense is not there. I mean, we have to talk about injuries. We have to talk about Buxton, Correa, Royce Lewis. But let's assume that those three guys are in the lineup or at least on the roster. Maybe Buxton is going to be coming in the first game pinch hitting. He's not feeling 100%, but they still put him on the roster or something, or Correa. But let's just pretend those guys they're healthy. They're ready to go. I feel like they might be. How do you feel about this offense, and how do you stack them up? I mean, who's your number one? Who's your guy that you're like, this guy's going to win it for us?
I think that guy is Royce Lewis. We've seen it all season from him. It's been absolutely great watching him play this summer. He's really started to come into his own as a MLB player, and I think he's kind of going to be our X factor. He's going to be our spark in the lineup because obviously Correa has had a lot of postseason success. So it could totally come from him too. But I think Royce Lewis is probably going to be my pick for that.
Yeah, I could agree with that Royce Lewis pick. I mean, just the amount of grand slams that guy has hit. But I actually have to go with another guy who's had a few grand slams this year and actually had the two furthest hit grand slams. Both were in Twins history by the same player, Mr. Matt Wallner. And I think Matt Wallner is about to find a way to etch his name in Minnesota sports history. Joe Mauer, homegrown boy, Minnesota Twin. Everyone in Minnesota knows who Joe Mauer is. And I think Matt Wallner is right on the edge of everyone knowing his name. If they go on to the World Series this year or something, Matt Wallner will be the guy that helps carry them there, and he will go down as the Minnesota guy, the homegrown guy that helped carry the Twins to the World Series. And that is my pick to click in the playoffs.
I love that. I love that take. I think he can be the next Joe Mauer. I think he can get up on that Mount Rushmore of Minnesota homegrown players. And he's got the opportunity now. He's been playing great. He's been ripping the cover off the ball. So hopefully he can keep it going and give this Twins lineup a little juice.
And you mentioned Correa too. I do know that
Planaritis.
Yeah, something like that. Whatever he's got, I forget exactly how you pronounce it off the top of my head. When we're live, it's hard to remember things. But that injury, I know that Jonathan India, I believe, had the same injury this season, and he missed about a month and a half. And Correa was just got it, he's had it probably for a while. Who knows? Because it stays around forever. But like, he's only been out maybe a week now. And if India had to miss almost 2 months, a month and a half, I mean, I don't know if Correa is going to be ready. He's going to be on the bench no matter what. He's going to be cheering this team on, but to see him in the game, I'm not sure yet, but he's going to power through. He's a postseason guy. And you talked about he has some good postseason numbers. Did you know that he has the eighth most home runs in postseason history?
Wow.
There are only 7 guys who have more home runs than Carlos Correa in the postseason in the MLB of all time. And we have Carlos Correa, and he just turned 29 like last week. And
that's
people
insane.
are saying, oh, he sucks. But you know what? You just wait. Because I think Correa in the postseason is going to be a completely new Correa than what we saw this year. We all know defensively he's top of the line. People question whether he's worth it because all they look at is the stats, the box score, and the Star Tribune. But if you look at his defense and you actually watch the game, this guy is worth every penny that we've paid him, in my opinion. And Kepler,
absolutely.
We talked about preseason Kepler being off this team. I'm done with Kepler. He needs to go. We got plenty of lefty bats, but you know what? I think he has the second best OPS on this team on the season behind Edward Julian. And That shocks me. Kepler has turned it around. He's having a great season. I think Kepler could potentially be one of those guys too, or Julian. But who do you start at second? You start Polanco, the guy who's been in this organization for like 15 years? Or are you going to start Edward Julian, who's got the highest OPS on the team on the season? If you're wrong, what do you do?
That's a tough decision right there, because you got Polanco, who's just been the epitome of consistency over the past couple of years when he's healthy, and now you got a younger Julian who's been had a great first season, has some good momentum rolling into the playoffs. I mean it's a coin flip, honestly. It can go either way, but I mean I think you got to have both of them in the batting order, whichever way you do it.
Right, like you got to have him in there. I think if there's one you're not going to have in there, I think it's got to be Polanco. Unfortunately, can either of these guys play third? Because what if Correa's hurt? All right, and they don't bring up Brooks Lee or something, but let's just say they move Royce Lewis, obviously, as a shortstop. Put Royce Lewis at shortstop, and you got Edward Julian over at second, and can you put Polanco at third? Or are you going to play Kyle Farmer at third or Solano? Like, how are you going to play this if you don't have Correa, do you think? And same with the outfield. How are you going to play it if you don't have Buxton? And do we think we see Buxton in center field? Is that even an option? Like, are they even going to consider it after all the injuries he's already had this year without even playing center field?
I mean, I feel like you're shooting yourself in the foot if you're not going to. I mean, you're talking about one of the best defensive players in baseball. And why would you want to take that advantage away from your team? I know there's injury risk. I mean, obviously, it's been clear over the past couple of years that is a concern, and it's a fair concern. But we're talking about playoffs here. You have to be putting your best lineup forward to win these games at all costs. I think he's got to be out there. I don't think there's any excuse for him not playing besides a serious injury.
Yeah, he's got to be out there. Especially, I mean, I know his knee is hurt, but you know what? This is playoffs, and he's got the whole off season to recover. Oh, hi. You want to say hi to Lily? Hi. She just jumped up here to join the podcast. She just said, Buxton needs to play.
You heard it here first.
You heard it from Lily first. But, yeah, and then obviously a catcher, you've got Jefferson, Vasquez, and at first you're going to have to put Killeroff in there. I don't know. I think you still need to roster Gallo, but I'm not 100% sure. Like, just having him as a pinch hitter that people could just go, uh-oh, here he comes. That's huge. He can hit a bomb with one swing of the bat that could go 500 feet. But he's not been good. He's not played well the last 3 months. If you got to take a guy off, I take him off before I take Castro or Solano or Farmer off. And even maybe Stevenson out in the outfield. I don't know. They're going to have some tough decisions to make, and same with the bullpen. Like, do you keep Thunderbunk? You send him down. I mean, do you not put him on the lineup and you bring him up in for a longer series when you need extra guys? I'm guessing they're going to do, 15 and 11 or something like that. But they've had a lot of ups and downs, and they have lots of guys that could be on this playoff roster that can make a huge impact that they might not put on the playoff roster.
Yeah.
And vice versa. Guys they put on the roster would make zero impact. That's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's also, it's a good problem to have that we have this much depth that there is a decision to be made,
Right.
And I think at this point, you just kind of got to put the trust in the coaches and hope they make the right decision. But yeah, it's playoff time. You got to nut up or shut up. There's no time for messing around. There's no more time for taking chances on guys. You got to bring your best players out there and, go ahead first.
Yep. Got a cat in the background. Yeah. And looking at the bullpen, I was just looking at this earlier. We know who the starters are, right? In the bullpen, first of all, you got Thunderbunk. I already mentioned. I don't know if he makes it on the lineup, but he's a great middle relief guy. He's a lefty. Heck, I think I might put him in there over Jax even or Pagan. Pagan, there's no way they don't leave Pagan on the line. They have to put him in the lineup. But Jax,
yeah.
He's got 10 losses on the season. He continues to blow games. He just blew one recently. I'd consider not putting him in the lineup, but there's no way they do that. Rocco's going to start him. Or he's going to put him in there in the late innings. It's going to be a 1-0 game. He's going to bring him in the 9th, and we're going to say, or in the 8th before Duran, and we're going to be like, well, here we go again. That's going to happen. Or they were doing what I've been projecting they've been doing all year, throwing guys like Jackson, Pagan, and all of them out there in these serious situations, potentially losing games because they knew they could still clinch the Central because it's such a weak division, and they wanted to get them in situations that's like a playoff situation, and maybe they got it all off their chest, Maybe all of the losses that he needed, he got them. Better to have it in the season than have it in the playoffs, right? So I think they're all in the lineup. Thielebar should be healthy and back. Stewart. I think Varland, Paddock. I think Paddock's on this lineup. He threw like 100 miles an hour yesterday. He's looking good. He's been
great to see him back.
Saints. Yeah, it's very good to have him back. I think next year, he's in the starting rotation. But unless they're going to try to be conservative with him and put him in a mid relief just so he doesn't throw too many innings.
Right.
Hard to say, but I think he might be in the starting rotation, especially if he pitches well in playoffs. All right, but
Definitely.
Let's take a look at the Twins' projections, and I kind of want to ask you in two different questions. One, how far do you think the Twins are going to get? Like, tell me how many games in each series they're going to have to play, and if they're going to win the series or if they're going to lose the series, if it's going to be a 3-4 win in the whatever. All right, how far are they going to get? And now I also want to know, how far do they need to get for you to say that this postseason was a success? Is that World Series or bust? How far do you need to feel like, what? We did it. We came out here. This is awesome. They did their best.
All right.
And how far are they going to make it? So start with the projections. Tell me wild card series, division series. When are they going to win or when are they going to lose?
Honestly, my gut reaction, I think the Twins finally get over that hump. I think they're going to get their first win in 18 years. I'm not too worried about that. Realistically, I think we're going to end up losing. I think we go 1-1 in the wild card and lose that game 3. It's going to be brutal. It's going to be a heartbreaker. But that's just kind of where my gut is. Obviously, I don't want to see that happen. I'd love to see them go as far as they can. But I think to deem the season a success, I think if we win that wild card series, I'm happy with that. I don't think this team was a serious World Series contender at any point in the season. So I think just getting one playoff win under the belt, it's moving in the right direction. Let's retool this offseason and really go for it. I think that's kind of where I stand on this right now. But, we got to at least win one.
So if they win one game in the postseason, season's a success, even if they drop in the wild card?
No. We have to win one. That's like,
okay.
There's no choice. You are winning one or
yes.
This is a complete failure.
You
I think just winning
in the wild card, we may not podcast again. Because
blow up the team.
You might as well move this team to another state because this whole state is going to collapse around the Twins, and they are not going to show up to watch games next year.
But I think if we can to win the wild card and make a little noise in the divisional, I think that's a success in my book. I think with not having the super high expectations, getting that far. I think I'm proud of that with what our roster is and what this team is.
All right. I can see that. I feel like that's probably about where 50% of people are sitting right now. They're like, just get that one win. I think some people are saying they need to at least get out of the wild card series. Personally, I have a little higher expectations for this team. I think they have had 162 games to tweak and change and make trades and do everything they need to do to try to plug in the way that they want this lineup to work. And they haven't had too many injuries. They have the starting pitching. They have everything they need. And they're not in the playoffs right now, which what I mean by that is Texas is in the playoffs right now. Seattle, Houston, even Tampa Bay and Baltimore are in the playoffs right now, fighting for a seed. They're fighting to try to get that high seed. Tampa Bay or Toronto, Texas, Houston, Seattle, they're fighting just to make playoffs. And so they're going to be worn down. Their pitchers are throwing extra pitches. They're bringing out all their guys when they need to. They're already in playoffs. The Twins right now, they get to rest. They have the biggest advantage of all of the teams in the American League right now, in my opinion. And I have more expectations than just one win or even just the wild card win. I think they need to they have to get through the wild card series. Even if you get one win, you're still looking at it and you're going, that means they drop 2 games, win 1. You're going, all right, next time they make the playoffs, you know what the conversation is going to be? Well, the Twins are 1-20 in their last 21 playoff games. Does that really change anything? I don't think so. No. I think 0-20 is pretty close to the same as 1-20. Give me more than one win. You need to get out of the wild card series. You get to the division series, and you're going to have to face one of these 4 American League teams that we talked about that I think they can beat any one of them in 5 games because of our pitching staff. I think they need to get out of the division series. That means now you've won 5 games in the playoffs because you won 2 in the wild card. You win 3 in the division series. I don't care how many they lose. They win 5 games. That conversation of 0-18 goes away. You get to that championship series, AL championship series, you're on the verge of winning to get to the World Series. That's a success. They need to win 5 postseason games to me to be a success. Even if they, 4 would be good too. If you get to the division series, you lose 3-2. That's not great, but better than 1. I need at least 4. 5, you get to that championship series. I think next year you're filling the seats, you're selling tickets. You get to the playoffs again next year because this division's still weak next year. You're going to sell a lot more postseason tickets than you sold this year. That is a success. And it's a business. And that's what they need. They got to get to the championship series. And if they get to the World Series, they got to win a game. You got to win at least one. You can't get swept in the World Series, and you cannot get swept in the championship series either. Even if you win all those 5 games, you get to that championship series, you lose 4 straight, you might as well not been there.
Yeah.
And I think they just cannot get swept in any series in this playoffs for it to be a success.
Right. Well, and I feel like also just making a deep playoff run right now feels so important to this team just because of how young we are. You're talking about guys like Royce Lewis, Matt Wallner, Joe Ryan, Julian, like all these guys that don't have that playoff experience. And if we want to be one of those powerhouse contenders moving forward, we got to get these guys experience. We got to get them under the bright lights. Like, I think that alone, making that deep playoff run, regardless of, getting the fans into it, like all that stuff, I think it's most important getting those guys experience and getting them ready for a real run, which I just don't really feel like this is our year, Not saying it can't happen. I would love to see it happen. Oh, yeah. I don't know.
I think what you mean by that more is like they're going to have more opportunities. This division, Texas, Detroit and Kansas City, they're a little ways away. The White Sox are completely a bust in every way,
they're blowing it up.
Form. You might as well just scratch them off for the next 3-4 years. And Cleveland is our only threat, but Cleveland's young. They don't have a lot of money. They're in Ohio. I'm not threatened by Cleveland. I think that the Twins are good enough. And especially if, like you said, they make a little run, they're going to have a little extra money. You're going to be able to get a little extra from those players, those free agents that are like, I want to get to a team that I can win a championship. And you can say, look, we're a team that is going to win the division this year. We're not like the Yankees who are going to end up over 500 and not make the division. The Twins just have to end up, literally, if they ended up over 500, they win this division this year. They could have ended up 500 and still won the division. So, I think your take is the best take of this podcast. They need to get these guys postseason experience, and the deeper they get, the more of a success that's going to be. Even if you get to a World Series and you win a game, or you even just getting to the World Series, just getting through all that press conferences, all that prime time, things that Minnesota Twins players are not used to, that would be huge. Then I think you see at least a World Series in the next 2-3 years from the Twins. That's how good they could be if they could just get that experience under their belt, which is what some of those older teams never got a chance to do. But yeah, all right. You don't think the Twins are going to make it that far. This is the last thing we're going to do on the podcast. I just want to know who is going to win it all. You know, who are you taking in the World Series? Let's make some predictions. You can pick each game if you want. You can pick each series as much as you want to do. But what's your prediction for the postseason?
I'm going to start big here. My World Series prediction: Braves Orioles.
Oh, wow.
Braves win it in 6.
All right.
That's where I'm feeling. I would love to see that Orioles team make a deep run. I mean, you just got a team that's been poverty for so long, finally getting momentum moving in the right direction. And they're a fun team. I mean, they got guys like Cedric Mullins, who's an electric factory. I would love to see that team do well after the Twins. I want the Twins up there first and foremost.
So, I mean, you get to the championship series is the only time you're going to face Baltimore. So Twins get there. Obviously, we're cheering for the Twins, but any other team from our side of the division, we're not. I'm not cheering for Houston to get to the World Series. I mean, I'm really going for, besides the Twins, because that's a given, I want to see Baltimore and I want to see Tampa Bay. And if I had to pick, man, I unfortunately kind of think that Houston is sneaky good. Like I think Houston can beat any of these teams. Like I said, they scare me the most against the Twins. I kind of think we're going to see Houston in the World Series this year because we don't want to. If they make playoffs, obviously I know they're going down, but you know what? I don't care who you are. You got Justin Verlander and Framber Valdez, Christian Javier, Hunter Brown. I mean, that's a team I don't want to face in a 5 or 7 game series or a 3-game series. I don't want to face them at all. And they've got guys with experience, like we talked about. They've been there. They've done that. They've been through the ups and downs. They've been hated on more than anyone in baseball has ever been hated on. So no hate is going to affect them. They've seen it and been there. So, you know, I kind of think we're going to see Houston get to the World Series if they can get past the Twins. And on the National League side, I'm going to be a little wild here. I know the easy pick is the Braves or the Dodgers, but I think Phillies. I think the Phillies have a pitching staff just like the Twins. They have Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler. That's just like Pablo Lopez and Sonny Gray, in my opinion. If we were facing them in a 3-game series, I'd be much more terrified than if I was facing Houston even. And they have all the offense on their team they need. They got guys who have been there, done that. They've been to the World Series. I mean, these guys, I think Philly, Houston is my pick for the World Series, and I think the Phillies win it all. And I think they beat the Braves in the championship series. I'm assuming they face them there. I guess they could face them in the first round, but it's kind of a little still up in the air. Pretty sure they're going to face them.
I like those picks.
Like that? Philly over Astros.
You like that?
You like that? Little Kirk Cousins. Anything else we didn't talk about that as we lead into the final week of the Twin season? We'll probably do another podcast as they come out with the roster. We'll see if Buxton's going to be on there, Correa, but is there anything else that we missed that you wanted to mention before we get any further? Otherwise,
not anything I can see. I feel like we kind of hit all the spots. Twins got to win. That's,
you know what? Last thing
we got to do this.
We do. We need to win. But I do have one last thing I want to mention that I did have on our sheet here. But when you look at, I just want anyone that's watching it and has made it through this podcast 37 minutes or however far in we are right now, go and look at the Twins stats from this season and compare it to any other season. I don't care. Pick the 2015 terrible Twins, whatever. I pick any season you want. And we have the stats are crazy wild. Like, no one on our team. Guess who played the most games on our team? Carlos Correa. And he played 135, and he was on the IL multiple times. Donovan Solano played 129, the most games on our team. Then you got Kepler with 126, Michael Taylor 126. That is crazy. There's no one even close to 162. That clearly shows how much Rocco has been preserving these guys, playing for the playoffs, not just playing to win the Central. He's trying to play to stay healthy. He's trying to say, all right, we want you to go out there, and we've seen it with pitching. We want you to go out there and throw 8 innings of shutout baseball. But if you're at 100 pitches almost, or you're even at 85 pitches and it's the 5th inning, you might be out of the game because we need you to be healthy for playoffs. And I think this is where we see a switch change. I do not think that I know it's a long playoffs and they're going to need to go and try to win multiple games, but I think you see Rocco change his vision, and he's going to have those guys out there every single day. He's going to have those pitchers throwing extra innings. He's going to pull guys in the bullpen way earlier than he did before. He's not going to leave them out there when they get in trouble, which he did all season. He's always leaving guys out there to try to have to fix their mistakes, which that's good. But you know what? It's crazy to look at the stats. Nobody had more than 23 home runs. Like that Bomba Squad team, didn't like 7 guys have over 30 home runs or something insane? We had 3 guys with over 20 home runs, and that's it. And one of them being Joey Gallo, who had a terrible season in my opinion. And in RBIs, usually you look at every one of these playoff teams, I guarantee I'm pretty sure every one of them has at least one player with 100 RBIs. Do you know the most? I don't know if you've already looked at it, Alex, but did you look at it yet?
I haven't pulled up.
Okay. Well, the most RBIs on our team is 65 by Carlos Correa. That's it. 65. You run me out there 162 games. I might get 60.
All right. Slow your roll.
But that's crazy. Only 3 guys had over 50 RBIs, and one of them being Royce Lewis, who only played 58 games this season, and he had 52 RBIs.
That's
unbelievable. Crazy. Like, I have never seen a playoff team that had such low numbers offensively as this team has, which is why I think if their offense can click, like you said, this pitching staff is amazing. They're the reason they won the Central. Anything can happen. A World Series championship could happen. And you know what would happen if that happens? This podcast would get views.
If Michael Taylor can hit 20 home runs, the Twins can win the World Series.
Michael
Anything's
Taylor
possible.
Is about to become Randy Arozarena in the playoffs, if he's healthy. All right. I think we've gone through everything. I think we've talked about tons of stuff. We'll try to come out with another podcast right before the Twins' first playoff game, maybe on Monday or so. I think the first game is Tuesday? It's Tuesday the 3rd? Yeah, it's coming up fast.
I think so.
So that's going to happen quick, and we will be talking about kind of the roster changes, who they're going with, who they're not going with. It might be a little shorter podcast, but we're going to talk about who we're facing and who we want to face or who we wish we would have faced, and which one of these teams collapsed, because either Seattle, Texas, or Toronto or Houston is going to collapse, and they are not going to make it into the playoffs, and that's going to be devastating for their team. But that means we're going to have to face a team that had to win at the end of the year and is currently in playoffs. So make sure you tune in. We'll have another podcast on Monday to talk about the Twins. And till then, make sure you follow Hot Dish Sports on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Obviously, give us a subscribe. We appreciate it. Go Twins.
Go Twins, go.
No, you don't get water. The fuck? All right, now we're ready.
All right.
No water.
Go Twins.